Welcome to the third and final part of my Hypbrid Theory 20th Anniversary box set review. Today we are talking about the remix album, Reanimation. Hello, my name is Brandon Vanal. I am a gamer, music lover, and aspiring voice actor. Now, if you haven't seen my review of at least Hypbrid Theory, the main album, I recommend you check that out before watching this because I'm not going to be doing any track breakdowns when we get to that or anything like that. And it helps too if you watch part 2, which is the B-side rarities. So, yeah. Or if you've already listened to all those tracks and you're just here to know if you should get the remix album, then welcome. Yes, a couple years after Hypbrid Theory released, they decided, you know what, before we drop our second album, let's do a remix album. Let's do some collaborations for fun. And yeah, that's how Reanimation was born. And I think we should take a look at the box art because it's actually pretty dope. Alright, so here we are at Reanimation, which is the remix album for Hypbrid Theory. So to go with the theme of Hypbrid Theory, instead of a soldier carrying a red flag, it is a sort of Gundam, Megazord, Transformer kind of deal thing, holding a red flag, which I feel like is pretty good, representing kind of some of the songs on the album being more electronic and techno and just kind of sci-fi-ish and just different, and I really like it. I think the design's really cool, and I like the idea behind just changing the soldier to a robot. It's really cool. The X in the background are now like its wings, which is a really cool detail as well. And yeah, you got the 20 LP Reanimation right there, Linkin Park right in big bold orange letters, a little thing there, and then you can kind of faintly see it, but there are the words again, like I mentioned in the Hypbrid Theory one. I think it's like the voices in your head or the lyrics of the songs. But yeah. On the inside, we got this. These are all the tracks laid out on the bottom. I don't want to hit the mic, so let me just do that. You got a picture of the robot right here in like some sort of like graffiti like kind of state in a way. And then same here. Looks like it's hunting or it's marching forward. It's struggling, but it is doing that. Then on the back, just some more artwork of the robot, and then once again, some more of the track list. And yeah, little red outline sketch too, kind of grid deal going on right there. Then we have this in here, which is nothing really special. Just some black and white, shows a soldier, I think, there. Yeah, not too much to talk about on that. Overall, for a remix album, they really did do their best to make the album look different while also conveying that, it is still a remix of this album. Like, it's really easy to look through all the albums that Linkin Park has dropped and be able to pinpoint which one correlates with this. Yeah, really cool artwork, and yeah, it's not as iconic as the original artwork, obviously, for Hypbrid Theory, but it's still really cool. So the way I'm going to be talking about these tracks now is I'm going to give you like a vague description of what's different between the track on this and the track from the original album, and then give it a rating out of 10 on how much I enjoyed it. Now, disc 1 side A actually starts with an opening, which is actually a little sneak preview at the final track, which is a remix to Crawling. Yeah, it's kind of like hinting at what's to come, and I kind of like that, especially since, spoiler alert, it's probably one of the best ones on the album. Another thing I want to mention real quick is that the way they decided to word or spell out the name of the track is interesting because it still kind of vaguely tells you what the song is, but at the same time you have to kind of figure it out. I'll put how it's spelled, this one spelled on the screen. Points of Authority. J. Gordon Reanimation. Now obviously that's points of authority, but still it's interesting choice. I think it's to fit with the whole robot theme, so I'm actually kind of fine with it. I think it's kind of creative and adds a little bit extra, I don't know, more of a grab, I guess you could say. Now, this remix I honestly didn't like very much. I think it was kind of a weak start. I mentioned in my original review of Hypbrid Theory that this song had felt like it had some Korn influences in it. The grittiness and the lack of Jonathan Davis inspired vocals kind of takes away from it. So I gotta give this one a 2 out of 10. Next track is Inth and Kootmaster Kurt Reanimation featuring Motion Man. So this one is a remix of In the End. My first thoughts immediately once I saw this was like, for a song this big, it's kind of early, isn't it? It's a bit early because In the End is one of like the biggest tracks on Hypbrid Theory. I'm not gonna lie, the offbeat piano is really hard to listen to. I do not like it. The lyrics during the verses are switched up just a bit, but pretty much contains the same points as the original lyrics did. One of the satisfying parts was when the instrumentals picked up during the chorus, but in this version of it, it doesn't. One of the best parts was when the instruments did pick up in the original, it just amplified the emotion that was in Chester's vocals. Now the vocals aren't as prominent. This one honestly hurt to listen to, and it was very disappointing, and I just didn't like it. 0 out of 10. Next is a track called Cali. So this track is just an intro skit for the next, which is an interesting transition. So this next one, oh my god. Because of some events from earlier this year, it was interesting to see. The next track's called Fert 10 Alchemist Reanimation, featuring Cali 2NA. So this is a remix of Forgotten, and my first thought was, oh shit, this is the same psychopath that did the beat for Meet the Grams, one of the most psychosis-filled diss tracks I've ever heard. It was literally the kill shot for Drake, in my opinion. It sounded like a horror movie, so I was excited but terrified to what I was going to get myself into. Because if you know me, I love me some horror shit. So yeah, I knew that I was getting myself into some horror-esque, some creepy kind of shit. The instrumental, for the most part, is some sort of string instruments with some glitchy noises every once in a while. Mike's raps are very clear. However, when we get to Chester's vocals on the chorus, Alchemist decides to distort the fuck out of his vocals, and it's low-key horrifying. After the second verse, Motion Man comes in with his own verse. It's alright, and it pretty much expands on Mike's. This remix ends on Chester's nightmarified vocals, and I gotta say, this is the first one I thought was actually kind of decent despite the nightmare feel. 6 out of 10. Good job, Alchemist. You didn't scare me too much. So disc 1 side B starts off with P5ing Me Away, Mike Shinoda Reanimation featuring Steven Richards. Now this is a remix of Pushing Me Away. So the instrumentals here lean really, really into the techno-robotic kind of vibe that the album artwork is going for. There's also a sound, I just couldn't get this out of my mind when I heard it first time. It sounded kind of like a fart. I don't know why it does, but it's just a reoccurring sound I noticed. And it happens like every few seconds. One thing I've noticed about some of these remixes so far is that they really strip away a lot of the passion and emotion that were in the original songs. I don't know, I don't feel that sense of just raw emotion. It's just not there. It's like they sap the life out of it. And you also get to realize how just integral the original instrumentals are to back Chester's vocals and like even Mike's vocals. After the chorus comes back, we get Chester's normal voice and some of the instrumentals start coming back, and I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Steven Richards sings a few lines, but they don't really contribute much in my opinion. This one was very just okay. Like, I think the whole build-up was cool, but at the same time, I'm not sure how much it paid off. And yeah, 4 out of 10. Pulk for Me Head. Amp Live Reanimation featuring Zion. This is a remix of A Place for My Head, obviously. The instrumentals are very underwhelming and lackluster. I really didn't care too much for the song when I first heard it initially on Hypbrid Theory. So honestly, I really wasn't expecting much. I will give Zion credit though for giving us the best new verse out of all the features so far. The instrumentals do pick up a lot more towards the end, but I honestly will probably never return to this track. 4 out of 10. So the next song is Executioner Style featuring Black Thought, but this song seems to be an original song to this album that might as well be a Black Thought song since it's mainly just him rapping. The only other vocal that's heard in the song is Chester screaming "Shut up" echoed in the background. I have zero reason to come back to this song. 0 out of 10, sorry. I'm sure Black Thought's really cool and stuff, but, next is Voltage 3. Evidence Reanimation featuring Pharaoh Monk and DJ Babu. Now, this is why I made this part 3, is because High Voltage, this is a remix of, was on the B-side rarities and not the original album. It is on the bonus track version of the album, but the vinyl record that comes with the 20th anniversary box set that at least I got did not come with the 2 bonus tracks. They were put on B-side rarities, which is why I made that part 2 and not part 3 instead. This version feels like it fits the message of the song more than the original, in all honesty. This song is a straight-up hip-hop song with Mike rapping about him being dope on the mic. Pharaoh Monk, I'm sorry if I'm saying that name wrong, by the way, has an alright verse, but yeah, good for these guys for being the first to improve on the song. 8 out of 10. No complaints here, really. Next track is called Riff Raff, another skit that should just be called Yapping. Next, WTH Over You, Chairman Han Reanimation featuring Ace Alone. This is a remix of With You. I honestly think this one is yet another improvement. We're getting somewhere. We're going up. We were going down, now we're going back up. I said that the instrumentals leading into the pre-chorus sounded weird to me when I first talked about With You. But the change in instrumentals going from techno to rock, going back to Chester, actually weirdly works for this track. AC Alone also has a very solid verse. That being said, I still don't really care for this song, but I'll be generous. 6 out of 10. Which leads us into Disc 2, Side A, which starts with Intermission. So this is literally just some piano notes. Just a little intermission. Next, Purpurcoot, Cheap Shot and Chewbacca Reanimation featuring Rasco and Planet Asia. This is a remix of Paper Cut. Not really much to say about this one. I mean, honestly, just kind of generic instrumentals. I mean, Roscoe had a cool verse in this. The biggest difference was mainly a lot of auto-tune that was thrown into Chester's voice, so yeah, it was very lackluster. 1 out of 10. Next, we got Runwa at E, Backyard Bangers Reanimation featuring Phoenix Orion, and this is a remix of Runaway. The chorus sounds pretty much the same, but the instrumentals between the chorus sound very space-like and atmospheric. I didn't really care much for Phoenix Orion's verse, honestly, and it was pretty short as well, so 2 out of 10. My Under December, Mickey P Reanimation featuring Kelly Alley. Now this is another of the B-side rarity songs that I talked about. This is a remix of My December. The electronic instrumentals here really do fit the wintry, sad vibe of the original song. And they tone it down a bit while Chester's singing, which is something I actually really appreciate with a song like this. Kelly Alley also adds some nice background vocals to the chorus as well. While this version is good, I do think it changes the depressing vibe of the original. But that being said, I think that was the point. So, good job. 8 out of 10. Then we got a track called Steph, which is yet another kind of like skit track. So, next, By Myself, Josh Abraham and Mike Shinoda Reanimation. And this is a remix of By Myself. And I mentioned in my original take of this song that it was sort of like a battle happening in like your head, kind of. I mentioned how like symbolically it represented the soldier on the cover. The way that they changed the instrumentals up for this make the battle seem even more intense. Other than that, there really wasn't too much to add. So this remix gets a 5 out of 10. I think the Intensity edition would make you need probably a Megazord or something, so I guess it fits. Down to the last 3 tracks. The first one is Cure for the Itch, Chairman Han Reanimation, and this is a remix of Cure for the Itch. Now this one just seems to be just a more hyped up techno version of the song. Since this one was really just a DJ focused one, that's all I can really tell. I do like it better though, honestly, I do. 7 out of 10, pretty solid. We get to the second to last track, and honestly, this one and the last one, they're tied for my favorite one, but I think this one in particular did the best job at what this album has been trying to do. So this is One Step Closer, the Humble Brothers Reanimation, featuring Jonathan Davis. And this one is a remix of One Step Closer. This one takes kind of a little while to get started, which isn't too much of an issue, since there are some interesting instrumentals, and it totally pays off, dude. So I mentioned in my Hypbrid Theory review that at least one of the songs sounded like it had some Jonathan Davis like inspiration or some Korn inspiration. I guess Jonathan Davis thought that as well and decided, you're doing this Reanimation thing? Cool. Put me on a song. He comes in with some haunting lyrics, and then him and Chester have a screen off, and let me tell you, holy shit, was it epic. Between Chester yelling, "Shut up!" and then Jonathan Davis going, "Blood is pouring." Amazing back and forth. It was just insane. This was a great remix and my favorite feature on this album. And like I mentioned, this did what I think the whole album really, not the whole album, but most of the album has failed to do, which was like make it a nice re-listenable remix that I would definitely go back to all the time. I go back to this song ever since I heard it on Spotify constantly. So 10 out of 10. Good job, Jonathan Davis. For those who don't know, I am a pretty big Korn fan. I am going to talk about them in the future. That was a very pleasant surprise to see. And now we get to the final track, which I think also does a good job at what this is supposed to do. But it doesn't sound as much like a remix than just like a more cinematic version. This is Kerwing, Mike Shinoda Reanimation featuring Aaron Lewis. And if you happen to remember, Crawling was my favorite off of Hypbrid Theory. So I had very high expectations for it, and I am very happy that those expectations were met. I said that the original song sounded like a Bionicle theme, and if I were to tell you which one, I think I said Creeping in My Soul. This changes it from the Creeping in My Soul vibe to the Gravity Hurts vibe, and Gravity Hurts happens to be like my favorite Cryoshell song ever made. It's just so much more atmospheric and reaching for just bigger heights, and it's just so grand and cinematic sounding. And Aaron Lewis, he opens up the song singing the chorus and does a great job, honestly. It's a fantastic closer to this album, and like I said, I wish the rest of the album was closer to how the One Step Closer and the Crawling remixes were. But yeah, obvious 10 out of 10. So would I recommend picking up Reanimation? Honestly, if you're a fan of Hypbrid Theory, sure. Because even though I didn't like a lot of the remixes on this, like I probably will never go back to some of these unless I'm listening to like the full vinyl. It is fun if you're a big Hypbrid Theory fan and you listen to the album all the time. If you want to still listen to that album, but like have a little bit of a sort of twist on things, twists and turns, I definitely do recommend picking up Reanimation for sure. This was a fun album, all in all. I think the robot carrying the flag, very good representation of what the album was. So I want to just give some final thoughts on Hypbrid Theory, early Linkin Park in general, and just if the whole package is worth it, since this is the final part of that. So if you were just here for Reanimation, you can feel free to click away, because this is just going to be about the whole 20th anniversary box set. If you're interested in that though, or wondering if you should get that, you should stay. So I mentioned it at the end of my last video, which was the B-side rarities review, that was the main reason to actually get the 20th anniversary edition, since it doesn't seem like you can find it online unless people are asking for dumb prices. Unfortunately, you can get Hypbrid Theory as well as Reanimation separately online or in a record store. So the only reason to get the 20th anniversary really is if you don't have either of those albums, or you for some reason want what you've heard on B-side rarities. Yeah, I honestly don't think it's entirely worth it unless you don't have those two albums. Then you might as well go and get the package. If you're a huge Hypbrid Theory fan, go get it. If you're a huge Linkin Park fan, go ahead. It's a really cool thing to have. I'm glad I have it. So my question to you guys, I have two questions for you guys in this one. One, did you like Reanimation? Which songs do you think were improved on? Which ones do you think they just botched? Do you think any of them were improved on, or do you think they were all botched? Let me know in the comments down below specifically, and if you actually love Reanimation, tell me why. And then for the Hypbrid Theory 20th anniversary box set, do you plan on getting that, or did maybe my review of B-side rarities kind of turn you off from it? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know. And yeah, when it comes to Linkin Park, I'm going to just kind of set you guys up for what's going to happen with the reviews on this channel, since From Zero is coming out in just a few weeks now. I am going to be reviewing From Zero as my next Linkin Park vinyl, because I don't have Meteora, I don't have Minutes to Midnight, I don't have 1,000 Suns, I don't have One More Light, I don't have any of those albums yet. So yeah, we're going to be flip-flopping between Chester and Emily a bit, so hopefully you guys can bear with me as we do that. I know it's going to be kind of weird, but trust me, bro. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell when you do, and yeah, so long and good night.